everybody, it's me, Jenny again, and today I would like to talk to you about books and reading goals and things like that. Here we go, we'll start with story time. When I was younger, I was the bookworm. It was a huge part of my personality. I was Jenny, the girl who reads a lot. I loved it. I loved reading new stories and getting into new information, and then I went to university, and that was an intense experience, as I'm sure many people will understand, and it kind of broke me a little bit. I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression whilst at university, and it's been something that has been reoccurring ever since, but it's not what this video is about. So why I mention it is because part of the way that manifested for me was I very much struggled to focus. And I thought once upon a time that reading didn't take that much focus. It was easy. I got lost in these amazing worlds that were created by the authors and things. But after I left university and after I didn't have to, read so intensely as I had been doing for all the research purposes and things, I just didn't read for ages. And really in the past sort of 5 years or so, I've read very, very little, which is a bit sad because I really enjoy reading. I have enjoyed reading as a kid, and I want to get back into that. So this year I'm setting myself a little goal. It's not a challenge, I'm not going to put any sort of competitiveness onto it. I'm not a very competitive person anyway, so that just doesn't motivate me very much. But it is something that I want to achieve. So I have created myself a little notebook with my reading goals for 2021. And I have created, I don't know how much of this you can see, but here we go. Reading goals 2021. So there are 9 books, and I have split each of them, if you can see here, into sections in my little book. And some of them are split up by parts. It depends on the book, depends on how the book is laid out. Some of them are split into parts, and some of them are just into individual chapters. I've seen this technique. I was inspired by Cara at CuteWitch772. I'll link her video down below. She's done lots of videos about her various reading lists and reading techniques and things, so I'll link some of those down below. But this is a technique that she uses to keep a track of the reading that she's done, and I think it would probably be a really good way to help motivate me if I can see sort of how I'm progressing and how I'm doing on each of the books. I don't have any particular order that I'm going to be reading them in. I'm not saying that I have to finish one book before moving on to the next. I'm going to keep it nice and open, nice and easy, and just gently ease myself back into reading a bit more. So I wanted to show you some of the books that I have decided I want to read this year. All of these books are either new to me, so I've recently got them either from friends who've been clearing out, or I bought them thinking, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to read that. But none of them are particularly new out, they're not really new releases or anything. So in no particular order, I am going to show you the books that I've got. This one is Earth Power by the wonderful Scott Cunningham. So of course this is an older book. I believe it was published in the 80s. Yes, 1983 was when it was first published. So this is Earth Power, Techniques of Natural Magic. This is generally, I believe, a fairly sort of beginner-friendly book. A lot of Scott Cunningham's books were beginner-friendly, and I have skimmed through a few of his books in the sort of interim years, and they are definitely showing their age, but there is a lot of wisdom to be found in what people thought in the past, and it is a good way to get a sort of a basis for further reading. If you understand where something came from, if you understand something's foundations, then it's easier to understand where it's coming from going forward. So here's one. It's a relatively small book, you know, it's not massive, so I'm going to do this chapter at a time and we'll see how that goes. The next book that I'm going to be reading is this one. This is Naming the Goddess. Now this is actually a compilation of essays all about the goddess spirituality, and the different names of the goddess. And I actually know a couple of the people who have written essays for this one, written contributions. So it is edited by Trevor Greenfield, foreword by Cheryl Straffen, and introduction by Selena Fox. So it's got quite a few different viewpoints and opinions. So it's got part one, which is all about sort of the different ways of relating to the goddess and goddess spirituality and divine feminine and things like that. So I think that's going to be really interesting. And then the second part is almost like an encyclopedia. So it's got this huge list of names of the goddess, and it has a little essay for each of those entries, all about that particular name, that particular goddess, where that comes from. And I'm really excited to read this book. It has been on my list for quite some time, and I have promised to my friends who have contributed to this that yes, I am going to read it. I promise. So it's on my list for this year. So my next 3 books are all by the same author, and they're not strictly pagan or witchy. I wanted there to be a little bit of variety in my reading list for this year, although of course I have particular interests, so that's what I read. So these next 3 books are all by Tristan Gooley, and they are all of a genre, as it were. They are what I like to think of as pagan adjacent. So they're not specifically pagan books. I don't believe that Tristan Gooley is a pagan author, but I don't know. They're just really interesting. I picked one up from the library. I have done a little bit of reading in these past few years, so I picked one up from the library a couple of years ago, and I really enjoyed it. It was one of the few books that I did actually read and really enjoyed. So when I saw these books in Waterstones, I think it was, I went, ooh, yeah, I'll have that one. So this one is Tristan Gooley, How to Read Water, Clues and Patterns from Puddles to the Sea. And it is all about learning about reading water, learning about what different colours mean, how you can see different wave patterns and flow patterns in the water, what different disturbances on the surfaces might mean of what's going on below, all kinds of things like that. Why I call them pagan adjacent is because I believe very much that a relationship with the land is super important, particularly to me and to my pagan path. And it has been something that I have felt has been lacking a little bit in the past couple of years. I have tried to get out onto the land as much as possible, but you know, life happens. So I am really looking forward to these books because they're all of that vein. So this one is How to Read Water, Clues and Patterns from Puddles to Sea. And then the next one is The Walker's Guide to Outdoor Clues and Signs. And then the last one is Wild Signs and Star Paths, 52 Keys that will open your eyes, ears and mind to the world around you. and I'm just really excited for these, really excited to learn something new, to learn more about things that I might see every day, patterns in the clouds, in the trees, in the land. I'm really interested in that sort of thing. I'm really interested in learning more. So they're fairly hefty, but they're broken down into nice little chapters and segments, and I'll just do a little bit at a time and I'll get there. I might spread them out a little bit just so that I don't get sort of, I don't know, author fatigue. My next one is a nice little short one. It's a teeny tiny one. This is Moonwise by Wren Clement, and I'm actually a friend of Arwen's, or I consider her a friend. Hopefully she would consider me too. I've been to a couple of her workshops and been to workshops with her, and she is a wonderful, amazing person. She's got such a level of peace and calm. She's just a calm person to be around, and she wrote this book a couple of years ago now. I've been so bad. I've been, again, one of these that I've meant to read. Here we go. First published in 2019, and I bought this when it first came out. I was very excited, and then it sat on my bookshelves and I just didn't read it. So that is going to be rectified now. I am going to read this. So this is Moonwise, How to Find Peace and Power with the Cycle of the Moon. So I'm very excited for this one. I know she worked incredibly hard on it. It was a labour of many years for her. So I'm just really excited about that one and interested in, you know, learning more about the cycles of the moon and how those might correspond with my personal cycles, with my cycles of energy, sleep, life. So I'm very interested in this one, and I can't wait to give it a proper read. The next one is one that is on almost every pagan, witchy and Wiccan and anything reading list that I'm sure most people have read, and I sadly have not. But again, I'm going to rectify that this year. So this is The Triumph of the Moon, A History of Modern Pagan Witchcraft by the wonderful Ronald Hutton. Now, this one is a little bit more of a challenge. This is an academic book written by an academic professor, you know, by Professor Ronald Hutton, who is a professor at Bristol University, I believe. I've been to many talks by him. I've seen him in documentaries and things. There was one fabulous documentary that he did all about modern witchcraft and modern paganism that I'm not sure if it's online. I'll see if I can find it and link it below if I could. If not, sorry about that. I hope you find it one day. But yes, I'm very interested to read this one. I know it's full of excellent, well-researched historical information, and it's kind of one of the cornerstones of a lot of modern pagan witchcraft. However, it is an academic book. It is dense. I have tried starting this a few times, and I have just not managed to get into it. I was intimidated. I was having flashbacks to university and all these sort of academic books and papers and studies and goodness knows what else I was reading. So yes, this one was a little intimidating. So I'm going to be kind to myself. I'm going to start this year. If I finish it by the end of the year, then woo, go me. If not, then it can be an ongoing one. I'm going to be kind, going to be gentle with myself, and eventually, bit by bit, I will read this. Okay, so the last two books that are on my list are fiction books. All of these other ones so far have been non-fiction, and they have been, you know, information from relatively friendly, Scott Cunningham style, all the way through to Triumph of the Moon. So it's a lot of new information that could potentially be seeping its way into my poor little brain. So I thought I would include a couple of fiction books to give myself a little bit of a rest, a little bit of a change of pace, change of flavour, and I thought I would give those a go. So this first one is one that I picked up a couple of years ago and thought, oh, that looks really interesting, and I read the back and it sounded really cool. And then I brought it home and put it on my bookshelves, and there it stayed. So this is another one that I've been meaning to read, and this year is the year to tackle it. So this is Circe. Circe. I'm sure it'll tell me. By Madeline Miller, and this is a sort of retelling of the part of the Odyssey myth, where Odysseus goes and spends time on Circe's island, who's described as a sorceress, and she tries to, detain him on this island indefinitely, forever and ever, to keep her company. Well, that's the story of the Odyssey anyway, and this one retells that story from, well, that part of the story from Circe's perspective. It sounds just awesome. It sounds like any Greek epic should, but all from the standpoint of Circe, from the female character, which is always a breath of fresh air. So I'll read you the back. In the house of Helios, oh, there's lots of Greek names in this, guys, so bear with me. In the house of Helios, god of the sun and mightiest of the Titans, a daughter is born. Circe is strange, not powerful and terrible like her father, nor gorgeous and mercenary like her mother, but she has a dark power of her own. Witchcraft. When Circe's gifts threatens the gods, she is banished to the island of Iaea, where she hones her occult craft, casting spells, gathering strange herbs, and taming wild beasts. Yet a woman who stands alone cannot live in peace for long. And among her island's guests is an unexpected visitor, the mortal Odysseus, for whom Circe will risk everything. Circe's tale is a vivid epic of family rivalry, love and loss, and the inextinguishable song of woman burning hot and bright in the darkness of a man's world. So yes, that sounded interesting, and you're not supposed to judge a book by the cover, but it's shiny and it caught my attention. And it's got sort of cool animals and snakes and birds and things around the edges, and it worked, it got me. So I picked it up and I bought it, and this year I will read it. And the last book is, again, a book I bought, 3 years ago, and started and then got stuck and then just never finished it. So it's a good one for me to try and motivate myself into reading. So this is The Red Tent by, Anita Diamant. Sorry. And I'm sure quite a few of you are aware of this book and are familiar with this book. It is a fiction book, and it's based on the biblical story of Dinah, Jacob's only daughter. So it's a retelling, again, from a female perspective of a biblical story, and it is one of the things that sparked the Red Tent movement. And if you're not aware of the Red Tent movement, it is amazing and fabulous and international, and I will link some of the information below because it's definitely worth checking out. And I've been to quite a few different Red Tent meetings and gatherings and things all around the world, actually, and each one of them is slightly different, but it's all about women coming together and finding that sisterhood and finding that place where they can be open and they can be vulnerable and they know that they are held by people who understand and people who have experienced the same things. So I'm very excited to read this book. It's been on the list for ages, so this is the year of finally reading things that have been on the list for ages. So that is my list of modest goals that I have set for myself for this year. If I get through all of them, that's great, that's amazing, and I will be really proud of myself. If I don't, then I don't. It's not the end of the world. I'll let you know how it goes. And when I finish each of the books, hopefully I can make a video for you, letting you know my thoughts, do a little bit of a old school book review from random person on the internet who has an opinion. So yes, I'm very excited. I am looking forward to creating better habits and some healthier habits in the year 2021. Nothing extravagant, no big massive goals. I'm not going to tempt the universe in any way. Just some nice little ongoing projects that hopefully will bring me a lot of joy and give me lots of things to think about and teach me new things. So there we go, learn new things. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you found this interesting. If you've got your own reading list, let me know in the comments down below. Is there anything on my list that you have read? Let me know what you thought. And thank you very much for watching. And I'll see you again soon. Blessed be. Bye. Scott Cunningham's books were beginner friendly. The sun's decided to come out. It's right in my face. Go away. Okay. I'm gonna go draw the curtain a little bit. So I am really, and then I brought it home and put it on my bookshelves. The same things. So that is my modest goals